My name is Alexander Gakovka. I'm dealing with business task solution. I am head of project office in STT company, a distributor of commercial equipment in Russia, with a large experience in different businesses in the area of successful solution of organizational and economic tasks. So the topic is methodology for search and selection of resources. So let me start with the problem. There are various classifications and recommendations to work with the resources. They complement each other, but they do not give you a clear answer to the problem of selecting the optimal resource to solve a concrete inventive task. And they are, as a rule, for engineering tasks. Meanwhile, organizational and business tasks have particular features. They are characterized by the lack of clear localization of operating zones and operational time, and they are quite numerous. And the same story is about operational time, and it's different from engineering tasks because there's strong influence of human factor. Engineering tasks, they are determined and deterministic, and subjectivity is a characteristic of organizational processes for organizational business tasks. And there's a human factor in place because people are prone to make own decisions and to select actions how to solve problems and tasks. So if there is a task to put some pebbles in the special machine to make concrete, and these pebbles go to this machine, and if there is a concrete mix manually, then there is human factor. And for instance, the question about qualification of a person and technology this person is going to use and motivation to perform this task. So the result cannot be known in advance. Typical business tasks often look in the following way. You need to prepare something and to reduce operating costs or develop proposals. And special category of tasks, there are processes and what you can do it. Of course, the existing TRIZ tools, particularly for working with the resources and solving such tasks, are insufficient objectively, particularly for large-scale technical systems with sophisticated business processes. There's a picture here. It's an abstract example. It was supposed to develop proposals to improve the efficiency of production processes, increasing the sales profitability, and the process was not formalized. And what are the tools in place to work with resources? Well, we have conventional, traditional classification, material, energy and field, spatial, informational, functional, human and temporal, and a lot of training materials provide special resources adapted for managerial and organizational tasks. These include economic, political, social, cultural, ecological, legislative, legal, administrative, and circumstantial. Apart from that, the training materials also contain some more classifications used in various training materials by quality, by obviousness, by readiness for application, by value stability at system level. Well, this list is not far from complete, of course. There are different recommendations how to select resources. Mm, Some of them contradict each other. Well, of course, recommendations depend on the urgency of the project and the context. Well, there's a lot of material in this slide, but you'll have time later to study it. We have certain algorithms to search and select resources. For instance, a special book published by Gennady Ivanov and algorithm by Boris Zlotin and Alla Zussman. The same scheme of one algorithm is featured here. Therefore, you can summarize the materials and recommendations that they are not one system and a lot of recommendations. They complement each other. Some of them are in contradiction with each other. It is stipulated by the lack of universality, and the algorithms, they are have not been adapted for business tasks solution, and there's no clear understanding how to choose a resource for a particular task. And a lot of materials that I have shown, they are not published. There are no links, and there's no mention of authors. And also, these facts stress the need to systematize and unify approaches to work with resources, ensuring their practical and widespread applications in different spheres. So the proposed methodology has basic principles how to search and select resources. It brings together existing classifications into a single system. Then major points include three elements. Well, technologies and motivation were added. If we need have some pebbles in a concrete mixer and a person is assigned with this task, then these two categories, these two criteria that we're going to deal with later, that these criteria apply. The system offer and set of processes to process or refine materials and information in a particular industry, as well as formalized description of production methods. And this system of internal and external factors to encourage employees for efficient work and new classification features of resources for trees have been added by efficiency to perform work and achieve the necessary desired result with the least expenditures of resources, the ratio between results and cost. And we have low, medium, high, and very high efficiency levels. And plus, another classification by functional purpose. So we mean the role of resources and function in the production processes and activities. And here we have subdivision of raw materials, product, and then waste and operating tools. Some of these terms are not frequently mentioned. That's why I added an appendix in my presentation with their interpretation and the explanation of these terms. And the third point of how to work with these methods, it's interactive. You have a special model, and this table features an algorithm. And here it is supposed that you fill in the blanks in this table. For instance, Excel table can be used then, and it is supposed that all classifications that I've mentioned before by systemic level, by value, quality, and so on, by functional purpose and objectivity, these classifications are brought together in one table, and all these criteria, as I have shown before, are classified by categories, and each category is evaluated. So there is a basic score, and it is presumed that this score can be changed considering the particular task or a customer. If the customer says that it doesn't matter where you take this resource, so we can draw on different resources, and then the criteria of systemic level, the weight or value of these categories equals 0. Or if a customer says about the importance of innovative solutions and something new never used before, then the criteria of obviousness, we have special criteria. Non-obvious or newly created. I apologize. I explained using the slide in Russian. Now it's in English. You can look at it now. All right.
Now, further procedure. So we need to rank resources with the highest potential, or further selectional and screening. The ranking of resources is based on an assessment based on a set of criteria that allows you to determine the resources with the greatest potential. When we combine all these assessments and estimates, as a result, we receive the resources with the greatest potential to address, to solve a particular problem. In practice, a resource with maximum potential do not always turn out to be the optimum choice, the best choice. This may be because of the errors in assigning estimates to resource categories. Maybe there was some influence of stakeholders which was underestimated without market conditions, consideration, or other circumstances. Often, sometimes resources with less potential contribute to generating effective solutions or serve as a source of strong ideas. The methodology does not provide unambiguous answers on the priority of resources, but it helps to identify the most promising ones. At the same time, it is possible to consider options, using all resources combinations of them to find the optimum solution, the best solutions. Sometimes there can be hundreds of solutions, and this method helps us select those resources that are the best ones, that are the best fitting ones, and sometimes they indeed can be sufficient for the addressing, for finding the solution to a problem. If it turns out that these solutions are not sufficient, then we can work further to focus on those resources that have lower priorities or find a combination of these resources. Recommendations for assigning ratings to resources based on proposed criteria. Based on the system level, here we understand that the highest weight for a resource is available for those resources that we control, that are resources of systems and subsystems. In terms of stability, stable resources have higher potential than those that have lower weights. Again, ready resources have higher weights than those resources that are derived. Ready resources, you can take them out easily. For those resources that are derived, they need to be further improved for further application. Again, free resources have the highest priority, and very costly resources have the lowest priority. By quality, the highest weight have the most harmful resources, because harmful resources are part of the system and it's guaranteed, and very often they require costs for centralization, and there is this double effect, which means that sometimes these solutions, these resources can be innovative, sometimes, and as a rule, harmful resources are not part of development of any solutions to any problems. By quantity, insufficient resources have low potential due to limited volume and risk of shortage. Again, the highest weight goes to the waste because they are similar to harmful resources. They are surely to be part of the system, but at the same time, we also need to spend money to dispose them. And also, we speak here of about innovation, those innovation needed if we want to use these resources and such resources. By obviousness, the highest potential have those resources that are created from scratch, and also by non-obvious resources. Those obvious resources can be used by competitors, sometimes they're used by competitors, or they're used by respective business systems. Efficiency. Now, these efficiencies are important, and we feel that we can use these resources. Our focus is on key and often ignored resources. Like I have already mentioned, those waste and harmful resources require special attention, as they are already guaranteed to be present in the system and require additional costs for disposal and neutralization. But these resources is something that we omit, that we miss, because as a rule there is this psychological inertia which kicks in, and this prevents us from accessing these resources. We always take resources that we understand, but at the same time, we speak of systems and subsystems as well as newly created resources. So to work with these resources, we use iterative approaches. This iterative approach means that we have a number of elements. So we have this table, I have already shown it, looking at the analysis. This will be a flow analysis or a functional analysis. So we assess the results, and in the resource column, we put those resources that we use in a response to those needs that we have. This will be system resources or energy resources or something else. So then after that, we compare that with the results of the functional or the flow analysis. And further, we have another iteration. We look at those resources that are harmful in the system. And then we also create harmful resources for each of the types. We also add waste here with those newly created resources of systems and subsystems. Then after that, we create a very long list of such resources in the Excel tool. We have these drop-down menus, drop-down lists, and for each resource we can classify them quite easily. So we can categorize them very easily and split them into categories. So we have the weight of the overall potential, which is indicated here. Then after that, those potential resources are receive parameters, and then after that, the resources with high potentials can be assigned with problems, with tasks, or they can become part of ready solutions. This is how this methodology works. We have this detailed algorithm on how it works. These are the key steps of the algorithm. I have already outlined them, and we have a number of conclusions out of all that. So these conclusions are here, right here in this slide. I have mentioned them in my report. So the application of experience shows that the technique is an effective tool for generating a variety of strong solutions. So this is the key conclusion I am drawing. Sometimes this tool provides more solutions than other solutions combined, and other tools combined. That's it from my side, colleagues. I thank you for your attention and thank you for leaving so little time for the Q&A session. Yes, thank you, Alexander. We have some questions in the chat. I will ask questions and then after that I will switch to comments. A question from Mikhail Rubin. Some questions from Mikhail. How many time do you spend for such a resource analysis? Do you have any examples of how you use that in practice? Yes, we have some examples like that. So the time needed is the following. So for a complex process, for example, working with some experts in our project team, we had like 8 people, and we had about 9 meetings or 10 meetings. Each of them lasted about 1 hour and a half. So this is how much time we spent. We then evaluated this one, and we spent this time with a benefit because we found those solutions that we weren't able to find otherwise. Another question from Mikhail Semyonovich: how you select resources? Does it depend on those conflicting elements in a system? No, it does not depend on these elements. Do you use some derived resources for inventive solving of business tasks or problems? Any examples you can draw? I will need to remember if there are any derived resources that are used. And also, I am thinking whether I can announce everything for such a large audience here online. Well, it is really complicated to think something out of my head, so I can just try to do that. Maybe I could look for that, look for an answer. Yes, you can
Но вы можете потом
do that
отдельно
separately.
как
Yes,
бы,
I
если
would
это возможно,
take
можно
this
отдельно.
question, but I would maybe rephrase or convert our real examples, anonymize them to be able to respond to this question.
Пожалуйста.
Yes, Alexander.
Еще
Another
вопрос от
question from
Gakovka.
Mikhail.
Для чего
Why
на
do we need
практике
this
нужна
classification or
классификация и
categorization
координирование
or ranging
ресурсов при
screening of
решении
resources
высокоточных задач?
for
Для
the
чего на практике нужна классификация и
solving of
ранжирование ресурсов
inventive
при
problems?
решении
Why do we
высокоточных
need
задач?
this categorization? Well, it seemed to me that that was the core of my presentation indeed. I just want to speak about it once again in a nutshell. So we can have a lot of resources and we can have a lot of operative areas in an organizational system or framework. If we go and if we drill down to those resources in this system, sometimes we pick a resource and these resources can be abundant. There can be hundreds of them. To select those resources that are applicable for a particular task, they should meet some criteria. If we want to have an innovative resource, then we categorize that to those non-obvious categories if there is a second requirement in a problem. For example, if we don't have a budget at all for optimization, we can have a different categorization and use a different filter for that. Maybe to focus on low-cost resources or free resources. So with that, we reduce the number, the list of resources. Then after that, we use other evaluations. We can select further to pool these resources. So we screen resources based on their potential, and out of hundreds of resources, we then drill down, and this all boils down to a set of priorities which are of have the highest priority. This reduces the time, and this helps us focus on the resources that have the highest potential. Alexander,
Александр,
there
там
were
еще
a
по
few
поводу вашего
comments
доклада
on
были
your
комментарии, потом
input. You
посмотрим.
will be able to see them afterwards.
Так,
We
комментарии,
still
да.
have
Ну, давайте,
time,
еще
and
время
I
осталось,
have
есть, ну,
a
сначала с одного вопроса
question
задам.
from my side.
Вот
So
это,
you are
вы
telling
говорите, что
about
это
your method.
методика. У меня
I am
вопрос
also a
такой, я
developer of
тоже
different
знаток
methods.
методик,
So the criteria of
критерий
whether a method is
удалась, не
successful or not
удалась.
successful, and this is
Для
a simple
простого
criteria I
пользователя
have.
этой
Whether
методикой
these methods are
пользуются
applied by
другие
other people or
руководители или
not.
не
This is the
пользуются.
simple
Вот у меня
criterion
качество
I
критерия.
have.
Вот
If we look at
если бы вы
your
применили
methods,
к вашей
if we
методике
assess
такой
your
критерий, как бы
methods with this,
вы могли
how could
оценить
you
эту
assess that?
методику?
Well, the method is really a new one. Is a new one, and again, this is our first experience to make it public. Again, sometime later, I will be able to speak about it, whether it has been tested somewhere else.
Мгм.
It's a really a new one. It's a fresh method. Some of its aspects were formed not long ago, only in the second half of this year.
Мгм.
Thank you so much.
Спасибо за
Now,
ответ.
colleagues, are there any other
Так,
questions?
коллеги, есть еще какие-то вопросы,
Please.
пишите. Татьяна, я вам
Yes,
отвечу
Tatiana,
голосом.
we will
Слайды будут
provide
все
all the slides.
выгружены,
They will be available, so you
поэтому
will be
посмотрите
able
их
to
отдельно. Мгм.